Another part of the conversation centered around the city of Detroit today. I had the opportunity to sit down yesterday afternoon with emergency manager Kevyn Orr and talk about the path that we've been through so far in this bankruptcy process and where we're headed.
When you're going and asking for someone to make a courageous effort to help us with this effort, let's be direct. Let's not waste time, and let's talk about it. And quite frankly, I was very impressed with the level of interest, sort of the level of understanding. The questions were very sophisticated in their understanding, and you know, the vote was tremendous. So we got a little bit of momentum.
This has been an unbelievable set of moving parts.
Right.
When you're talking about dealing with the unions, the pensioners, the other creditors, you're talking about dealing with the DIA,
right,
foundations, and putting this deal together. What has it been like to put together this deal, and could you have envisioned it happening this way even 8 months ago?
No. One of the things that's been so key is the efforts of the mediators led by Judge Rosen, which has really brought to the table this $816 million. You know, last year, this time I kept saying, you know, DIA Corporation, our owners, they have to find a solution. I kept staving off Christie's doing this. We came up with almost $1 billion. I hadn't anticipated that. The level of courage and effort by some of our labor counterparties, their leadership teams, in coming forward and reaching agreements that we're actually going to put forward to the voters, meaning the creditors, to go forward. The interest that we've had in some of our creditor cohorts, the unlimited tax general obligation bondholders, the swap settlement, which we thought was a good deal last year and was driven down to even a better deal this year. So, you know, it's been an eventful year. We're making a little bit of progress, but we have a long way to go.
I was just going to ask you, because the pensioners, they have to vote on this right now.
They do. Yeah,
and so do you caution people and say this is not a done deal when people feel that we're almost home free?
Absolutely. You know, Christy, we're coming into the third term. We've still got to, we're coming out of the third term, but we still got to go through the fourth term and that long straightaway to the finish line. Got a little bit of wind at our back, a little bit of momentum, but we have 3 major milestones. We've got to get through the Senate funding, which is not certain. I take nothing for granted, nothing. I don't take it for granted the sun's going to rise tomorrow, okay? We have to get through the planned voting for some of our labor constituencies, and actually there's been some effort by some people to undermine that process, and I have to tell them how dramatic, how crazy. You know, we're talking about the difference between a cut that's somewhere between 5 and 20% and a cut that could be 60% where people are on the state rolls and are eating cat food, and then we've got to get through the confirmation hearing, which is by no means easy.
Undermine how? Tell me.
Yeah. Well, first with the vote, we're going to hopefully do the same thing we did at the House. We did some of that the past couple of weeks and explain both the value proposition for the city of Detroit, the value proposition for the state of Michigan, but also the risk element to the state of Michigan if we don't. I mean, just pushing, without this deal, you're pushing people onto the poverty rolls who'll come to the state for assistance in one form or another. So it's the old Fram oil filter commercial. You can pay me now or you can pay me later, and luckily the House decided they would like to pay now. On the planned vote, it's very complicated. I have to acknowledge that some of the retirees and employees are going through the ballot. My own staff has come up to me, members of my own staff have come up to me and said, you know, this is hard stuff. So, but we have to understand that at core, it's $816 million that goes away. And they're being hit by some of our creditors are saying, sell the art, it'll yield X billion dollars. Well, I don't know if that's true, but even if it is, that X billion dollars isn't going to be allocated to pensions. That's going to be spread across the whole $12 billion unsecured creditor class. So it's actually less money to the pensioners if you were to do that. But they're trying to confuse them. They're trying to mislead them. And I have to tell them, don't be hoodwinked. Don't be bamboozled. And then the third thing is the confirmation hearing where some of these same counterparties, some of the bond insurers who are going to the financial press, I heard today, and saying Kevyn Orr is undermining efforts in the market by not selling the art, are going to come to the confirmation hearing and say this is unfair. You know, you have to force the city to do it. It's directly contrary to Chapter 9 doctrine, where you cannot force a municipality to sell its assets, but that doesn't mean they're not going to try.
Talk to me a little bit about what's going to happen in July. You have hundreds of objections filed against the plan of adjustment. Walk people through the process, because again, a lot of people have never experienced a municipal bankruptcy like this before. What can we expect to see this summer?
Well, you know, each case is different, and this certainly is unique. It's never been done in a number of interests, but we filed an omnibus objection, which has a summary on the back of it in the court filing, and it's on our website if people want to see it. An omnibus objection Tuesday, and we're going to have those objections litigated, that is, witness testimony given in court. I suspect that there'll be an opportunity for individual objectors who filed to come in and voice their concerns. There'll certainly be an opportunity for our financial opponents, and then there'll be an opportunity for us and our allies, if you will, the people who we've made deals with, to explain why this is important and what it means to their various constituencies for this to get done. And then ultimately the court, Judge Rose, has to make a decision as to whether or not it meets the requirements of Chapter 9 bankruptcy.
Do you believe that you can finish this process by the October deadline when the City Council can vote to have you out of this position? And if you cannot, would you stay on in some other kind of capacity that perhaps the governor could appoint you to?
Well, you know, I've never rolled off a job in my life, and this is certainly, we've all, I mean, the number of parties that are here, both in the private side and the public side, have expended a lot of blood, toil, tears, and sweat to get us to this point. But, you know, I'm going to try to keep to the schedule that we have. As the court has said, anything can happen. That schedule should slip. I have to be respectful of that. I have to understand that. We're going to try to keep to it. And then when we get to that point to see where we are, you know, we'll address it then. But I certainly would like to think that we'll be in a position to be pretty darn close, if not done.
Do you still believe that this is an example for the rest of the country, and knowing that there are a lot of cities out there that are teetering towards a financial edge, have you set some kind of precedent here where they'll go back and say, this is what happened in Detroit, let's try to execute it this way? Or is this such a unique circumstance that you don't believe that anything like this will be duplicated again?
Yeah, I've been really careful with trying to say that this is an example for other cities. You know, this is costly, it's painful. It's very difficult, but what I will say is the cautionary tale that comes out of all this is delay has no value. Okay, we've you know, Mayor Cobo back in 1931 was dealing with Detroit's financial crisis and its housing crisis. That's 80 years ago, 83 years ago. Okay, Mayor Young had the was it Selkirk or Seacrest committee? You know, Mayor Cobo has a Dodge committee. Mayor Young had Seacrest committee. Mayor Bing had Detroit Future Cities. This has been coming for 80 years, so it's really an opportunity for us to reset the table, try to get this thing on the right track, leave a good balance sheet to the mayor and city council, and have them continue to drive change. But any other municipality, don't wait.
So do you believe that the plan that you've put together and the way that you could leave the city when this is all over, that you believe that Detroit will be able to be viable and to start to grow again?
I do. And this has happened in other cities. In Miami in the 80s, you remember it was down on its knees, the Time magazine cover, Paradise Lost, Miami never is going to be back, all these superlatives. They were wrong. Washington, D.C., when I came in the 90s, was still built out from the 68 race riots. It'll never come back. People are going to move to Arlington or PG County, Prince George's County, never going back. They were wrong. Pittsburgh, oh, Three Rivers Stadium is destitute, and, you know, Three River areas, the flats will never be back. They were wrong. I'm hoping that the detractors who don't think this is an opportunity for the city to really rise again from the ashes, to have that true renaissance, they're going to be wrong.